Hello friends, my name is Emile and welcome back to some more Forza Top Gear laps. Now, with Season 3's ending nigh, I figured it would be time to search through some of the car classes and pick some of those vehicles which just haven't had the chance to go around the track yet. And well, the first of those today is the Ferrari FF, 651 horsepower, 4,145 pounds. This is the highest PI vehicle here today. It is also the most powerful by a decent enough margin. So the Ferrari FF went round back in Forza Motorsport 5. It actually had its own episode dedicated to it. Because the FF is actually a relatively interesting car in the sense that it does have four-wheel drive. However, it has a very interesting four-wheel drive system, which basically means most of the power goes to the rear of the vehicle instead of sort of being relatively evenly distributed between all of the wheels. Now, when it comes to actually driving the FF, it doesn't really seem to make all that much of a difference. This is a pretty understeery vehicle, to be perfectly honest with you. As you'd expect from a relatively powerful four-wheel drive car, and especially considering it's not a supercar, so it hasn't got that sort of engine in the middle to take some of the weight off the front. This is a front-engined four-wheel drive vehicle, so the front end of this vehicle is very heavy, and you can feel that in the way it drives. Still, it is pretty darn quick. It is a Ferrari after all. And overall, it wasn't the worst vehicle I've ever driven, but I'd still probably go for something like a 458 Italia over this vehicle. Next up, we have the Lotus 211, and well, this is the polar opposite of the FF. This is the least powerful vehicle here today with only 252 horsepower. However, it is by far and away the lightest, 1,642 pounds of weight. This is probably one of the lightest vehicles we've ever had around the track before. The 211, when it went round in Forza 5, was extremely quick. This vehicle is just stupidly quick around the track. However, while it may be quick around the track, it isn't exactly the best handling vehicle in the world. This thing does want to go sideways quite often, and yeah, it's not the greatest thing to drive. The brakes, though, are absolutely superb. This thing gets stopped stupidly quickly. It's fantastic on its brakes. However, the rest of the vehicle is, I don't particularly like the way the 211 drives. However, I cannot deny that this thing around a racetrack is very quick. Of course, the only real downside to a track car like this is that it doesn't have the straight line speed. However, here at Top Gear, having like ultimate straight line speed honestly doesn't really affect the cars that much. It's all more about acceleration and handling. And the 211, when it's not going sideways, has both of those in droves. So yeah, the 211, not my nicest vehicle I've ever driven, but certainly very quick. Next up, we have one of the more crazy vehicles that I've ever gone around the track. This is the Wheels Mustang, 504 horsepower, 3,300 pounds of weight. This thing is actually quite light, a lot lighter than you'd expect. It's also a lot less powerful than you'd probably expect. So the Wheels Mustang is a crazy contraption. You just look at this thing, it is insane to look at. However, to drive, it is pretty darn nice. This thing has some of the biggest tyres on it in the game, from what I remember. So it is pretty darn grippy. It has downforce on it, obviously. It's a solid vehicle to drive, this one. Not the quickest thing in the straight line. 504 horsepower is quite a lot, but the thing you got to remember with the Mustang is aerodynamically it isn't the best vehicle in the world. However, it is still pretty quick. It will occasionally go a bit tail happy if you try to slam the power down to out the corners a bit too quickly. It is rear wheel drive, as you'd expect the Mustang to be. So the rear end can get a bit skittish, but honestly this is probably one of the better vehicles here today when it comes to its driving ability, if not the best vehicle here today. Certainly the most surprising to me, because I really like the way this thing drives. It's great. I definitely recommend giving the Wheels Mustang a try out. As much as it looks crazy, driving wise, it's not quite as crazy as it would seem. Next up, speaking of crazy, we have the TVR Sagaris, 406 horsepower, 2,377 pounds, or Sagaris, depending on which way you want to pronounce it. As you can see, this thing is pretty crazy. It looks nuts. It has a very weird paint scheme on it. I was looking through the factory colours, and this is one of them. It's like yellow, orange, purple, pink all at the same time. It's weird. However, I've got to say, the Sagaris is probably one of my least favourite TVRs. I don't know, I just don't like it as much as I like, say, the Cerberus or the Speed 12 or something like that. But as far as to drive, considering it's the only TVR in the game, it's still a pretty good choice. I can imagine if you build this thing up as a race car, it could be pretty phenomenal to drive. However, as it stands from stock, it's combination of having quite a bit of power as well as being quite light means it is a little bit tail happy. It's nowhere near as bad as it was in Forza 5. This is a reasonably decent vehicle to drive. Still not one of my favourites, if I'm completely honest with you. It will go sideways, you just saw through there, it went massively sideways. And honestly, yeah, it's not particularly mad to drive, but I can imagine if you put some upgrades on this thing, it isn't bad. However, as far as it stands stock, it isn't the best vehicle in the world to drive. Next up, we have the Aston Martin V12 Zagato, 510 horsepower, 3,704 pounds of weight. Now, we've had the V12 Vantage S go round, and considering this vehicle is based on a V12 Vantage, I was interested to see how the Zagato would perform. Also, in Forza 5, we took the Zagato round, and it was a special race version of the vehicle, whereas this is just the standard road car version. I've never really been a fan of the way this Zagato looks. I personally much prefer the standard Vantage. However, it's just a weird vehicle to look at. However, to drive, it's reasonably good. It drives very much like the V12 Vantage S does. It is relatively grippy. It will go sideways again. 510 horsepower is a lot. And weight-wise, it's one of the heavier vehicles here today. And you know, Aston Martins in general are pretty heavy. It drives kind of like the V12 Vantage S. I guess that's all I can really say about it. Straight line speed is relatively decent, not quite as quick as the Vantage S, because the Vantage S does have 50 more horsepower and weighs slightly less. Handling wise though, I think this might be a little bit better than that Vantage S was to drive, but still, it was a reasonably decent vehicle, the V12 Zagato overall. Next up, we have the Lotus XEGS, 345 horsepower, 2,593 pounds of weight. This thing is actually surprisingly powerful, 345 horsepower. I was not expecting that. I assume this uses the Evora engine. The XEGS, while I personally really like the way this thing looks, is probably one of my favourite current Lotuses. I've never really been a fan of the way this thing has driven since the original Forza Horizon, and well, unfortunately in 6 it is much of the same. This vehicle isn't the nicest thing in the world to drive. It will go sideways, it is a little bit understeery occasionally. The brakes are pretty decent, the straight line speed is surprisingly good. I mean, 345 horsepower isn't a lot, but considering this thing only weighs 2,593 pounds, that is, you know, it does definitely go. Surprisingly, this thing is actually heavier than the TVR is, which, yeah, that kind of surprised me actually. Didn't realise that while I was filming this. The XEGS is, it's okay. I wouldn't say this is a vehicle I particularly would like to drive for any real length of time. It just isn't particularly nice to drive stock. I'm sure if you know how to tune these things, this thing can be phenomenally quick around the track. Of course, it's a Lotus. I mean, Lotuses are usually pretty darn quick around the track, but the XEGS is just a little bit rubbery to really warrant it being a particularly great Lotus. And finally today we have the Lamborghini Urus, 552 horsepower, 4,400 pounds of weight. This is marginally the heaviest vehicle we have here today. Then again, it is a big four-wheel drive SUV. Now the Urus is the highest PI four-wheel drive SUV vehicle in the game. And to be honest with you, in the way it drives, it is obvious that this is the quickest. It has, it doesn't have quite as much power as the Mercedes G-Wagon, however, obviously, it is a little more aerodynamic than that car, and straight line speed is pretty darn decent in the Urus. To drive, well, it is surprisingly on SUV-like. I've always equated the SUVs in this game to driving kind of similar to, say, Subaru Imprezas and Mitsubishi Evos, in the sense that they do have a relatively excessive? No, they have mild understeer, let's say. They are relatively quick. They aren't quite as quick as you'd expect in a straight line, but they are much better through the corners than you'd expect. And of course, here at Top Gear, there are a fair few amount of corners, so obviously having handling grip is a good thing. The Urus was decent enough to drive actually, especially for an SUV. Looking at this thing, you'd expect it to be a little bit wallowy, but the suspension is surprisingly solid, and overall it's a pretty decent vehicle to drive. On to the times then, and it's no real surprise, the Lotus 211 is the quickest car of the day with a 1:16.557, quicker than a 458 Italia, quicker than a Reventon, quicker than a 911 Turbo S, a little bit down on a Viper GTS, which is kind of surprising, and it is down on the KTM Expo. Moving on down the board, we find the Ferrari FF in 62nd with a 118.129, a little bit quicker than an SL65 Black. The Hot Wheels Mustang goes into 69th with a 118.665, beating out an AMG GTS. And yeah, pretty decent times from those two vehicles, especially the Hot Wheels Mustang. Now on to where most of the cars sit today. The TVR Sagaris is in 77th with a 119.444, beats out a V12 Vantage S. Vanquish, pretty decent time from that car considering it wasn't the best to drive. The V12 Zagato is in 84th with a 119.744, and the Lotus Exige is in 86th with a 119.973. So a pretty decent time for all those vehicles considering the weight and so on. They all sit around the GT class, which is where you'd sort of expect them to be. And finally today, the Lamborghini Urus may have been the slowest car, but it still was pretty darn quick, going into 111th with a 121.735, fractionally off a Bentley Continental GT, and a little bit quicker than a Ferrari F355 Berlinetta. So that's a pretty decent time considering how heavy and big and SUV-like that vehicle is. Anyways, friends, that is it for today's episode of the Forza Top Gear Laps. I do hope you've enjoyed. The single car episode will be coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And as always, friends, I want to thank you all very much for watching. My name's been The Real Emile, and until next time, farewell.